What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be talking about the lack of a campaign in Battlefield 2042 and why I personally think it is a huge win for the game, even though it might not seem like that at face value. Obviously, this has been a pretty big talking point ever since the game was revealed way back in June, as a lot of people were annoyed by the fact that there wouldn't be a single player campaign in the game, especially considering the fact that the game is actually more expensive than ever because of the next gen prices. And so this has been one of the more controversial talking points since then, yet I wanted to talk mostly about the other side of that and why I personally think it's much better that we aren't getting a single player story in 2042. Before we get into it though, if you guys are new around here and you end up enjoying the video, then do consider subscribing and turning on those notifications so that you don't miss out on any upcoming Battlefield content. There is plenty of exciting stuff on the way, but with that being said, let's get stuck right into it. So for a lot of people, a single player campaign is obviously an integral part of any first person shooter. I can't remember too many AAA games in recent times that have decided against a campaign solely because it does tend to come as part of that typical AAA shooter package, having a single player campaign, the multiplayer section of the game, and then lots of games recently are obviously including free to play aspects like a battle royale or other variants, and that seems to be the general consensus of what is required in a first person shooter. Now that's not to say that games haven't done this in the past. There have been many shooters out there that haven't launched with a campaign, so it's not like this is some crazy new way of doing things, but generally speaking, most of the well-known shooters out there, games like Battlefield, Call of Duty, Halo, and even some of the older games like Doom, they all tend to launch with a campaign attached to the multiplayer. This is something that we've kind of just gotten used to over the last 10 to 15 years of gaming, and so when DICE came out and confirmed that Battlefield 2042 wouldn't be launching with a campaign, there were obviously plenty of people who were pretty mad about it, and rightly so. This is something that we expect, and when they announce that there won't be one, especially when the game is an extra $10, I can absolutely understand why people weren't too happy about it. With that being said though, there are some genuine positives to this whole situation that I think get overlooked quite a bit, and that's essentially what I wanted to talk about today, because for me personally, I am actually really excited that there's no campaign in 2042, and I think it's a really good decision from the developers to make sure that this game ends up being as good as it needs to be. Don't get me wrong, campaigns are always a good bit of fun to play, and I think we all enjoy that sort of casual aspect to the game, jumping into the campaign first to test out the game and just sort of getting a bit of a feel for the story and the setting and stuff like that. But how many of you can honestly say that you buy Battlefield just to play the campaign every time we get a new game? I'm sure there are definitely some of you guys out there who can say that, but I would honestly expect about 99% of people to say that a large part of why they buy Battlefield is for the multiplayer, even if they do play the campaign anyway. For me personally, I do always tend to play the Battlefield campaigns. In fact, I've actually been replaying them all on stream over the last few months, and generally speaking, I've always really liked them, but I don't buy the game for the campaign whatsoever. I buy the game because I love the multiplayer aspect of the game and the replayability that it brings, and that is where I make my money's worth, playing the game for months, if not years on end, not playing a 6 to 10 hour campaign that I might never play again once I finish it. I think after the bumpy time that Battlefield 5 gave us, DICE realised that this is probably the case for most people, in that we all tend to enjoy the campaigns, but we're really there for the multiplayer, and if they can spend the extra time on multiplayer rather than developing a campaign that takes years to make, then that'll only add to the multiplayer experience, while we still happen to get our story fix through the marketing that they've done so far for Battlefield 2042. For anyone who's not really been paying that much attention, there have been quite a few different mediums in which DICE have been telling their story through the use of online blog posts to sharing images and concepts on their Twitter account, and most notably in the form of their short film called Exodus that we saw just a week or two ago. Through these different mediums, we've learned so much already about the setting and the story for Battlefield 2042, even though the game isn't going to have a single player campaign, and honestly, I'd imagine that by the end of the game's lifespan, we're probably going to know just as much about this story as we will have about any of the previous games, despite that lack of a campaign, and to me that is actually a really exciting concept. Being able to learn about the world and the story of Battlefield 2042 without having to actually sit there and play it is such a huge win for me personally, and I know many others probably feel the same, because it requires so much less effort on my part, as I can read their blog posts or watch Exodus on the train or when I'm having a quick 10-minute coffee break in the afternoon, and that allows me to still be immersed in the story when I'm not even playing the game. Not only that, but the game isn't even out yet, and we're essentially getting to experience the story already through these different mediums, which again just wouldn't be the case if the game was going to have a single player campaign. We'd have to wait until launch and then sacrifice 10 or so hours of multiplayer time to experience pretty much the exact same story that we're already getting, on top of having to wait an extra 2 or 3 months to get it compared to getting it now before the game has even launched. This might just be me, I'm not really too sure, so let me know what you guys think in the comments, but when I play a single player campaign for a first person shooter, I'm not really playing it for the gameplay or for the epic battles. I'm honestly just playing it for the storyline, because if I wanted to experience the gameplay, I'd probably just go and play multiplayer instead and actually benefit from that by leveling up and actually getting better at the game. When it comes to an actual single player game, that's not the case. For example, a game like Red Dead Redemption or God of War, I am actually playing that to experience that single player campaign, because that's why I bought the game, to sort of go on that journey with the characters and fight those boss battles and just experience the whole thing. But for any campaign in a first person shooter like Battlefield or Call of Duty, I just don't really care for the gameplay in the campaign. It's almost purely just to experience the story. With the way that they're marketing Battlefield 2042, however, I am still getting that story through the short film and the blog post without having to sit there through the quite frankly monotonous gameplay sections that the game has to offer. And for me personally, that is just a much more interesting way of experiencing those stories, rather than just having to fight off 50 really dumb AI before I move on to the next section of the game. Again, that could just be me, but I feel like a lot of people probably feel the same, and so letting us experience that story in a new and unique way is just a really refreshing way to do it, in my opinion, and with so many benefits to the actual game, it almost feels like a no-brainer. The benefits that I'm talking about are, like I said earlier, that they're saving so much time on having to build out an entire single player campaign, meaning they can put that time and resources into the multiplayer, which is just a much more important aspect of the game, and I think they really need to do that after Battlefield 5 kind of fell flat on its face. This is easily one of the most important titles in Battlefield history. After so many amazing games, they've definitely hit a bump in the road with Battlefield 5, and I think this game seriously needs to get back to that typical amazing Battlefield gameplay that we all know and love from the Battlefield 3 and 4 days, and by spending way more time on the multiplayer rather than creating a single player campaign as well, I think they've truly made the right decision in the long run, and I think in a few years we could look back at this as one of the best decisions that they have made for the franchise in a very long time. Now, that is just my opinion though, and I'm very curious to hear what you guys think about this campaign topic, so leave a comment down below and let me know whether you think it's a good thing that we aren't getting one, or whether you think it is a mistake for the franchise. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to leave a like down below, and if you are new, then consider subscribing to the channel with those notifications on. If you guys want to support the content that I make here on YouTube, then do consider becoming a channel member. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there on the battlefield.